Steelers ain't in that much trouble. They're 6-4. Obviously, they're in danger of not winning their division, but they're in position to make the playoffs. You look at the scour the AFC. There's the New England Patriots in the AFC East. There's Baltimore in the North. There's obviously the Texans in the South. There's the Broncos in the West. Are you worried about San Diego out west or Oakland or Kansas City? No. Are you worried about Jacksonville or somebody or Tennessee or somebody? No. Obviously, Indianapolis Colts are there. The Pittsburgh Steelers are there. The Cincinnati Bengals are a game behind. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, just look at some of the remaining games that they have on their schedule. They've got, Cleveland. They've got Cleveland twice. They've got Cincinnati. They've got Dallas, at Baltimore. That's going to be a tough game. At Cleveland, one of those games. And you got San Diego. Bottom line is this. All of those are winnable games. Their toughest matchup would be the Ravens, but a legitimate argument could be made that the Steelers could easily go 4-2 the rest of the way, if not 5-1. So we're talking about the Steelers winning 10 to 11 games on this season. The way I look at it, I say to myself, excuse me, you still got Jonathan Dwyer. You still got Isaac Redmond. Rashad Mendenhall came back. You still got Mike Wallace with Emmanuel Sanders. You're talking about bringing Plexico Burress on there, which is going to increase your red zone efficiency. We all thought that Charlie Batch should have been in there instead of Byron Leftwich anyway. And then you're talking about the possibility of a guy by the name of Dennis Dixon, who reminds you to some degree of Kaepernick, who was on the practice squad in Baltimore, but the only way the Steelers would be able to get their hands on him is if they signed him to their 53-man roster for the rest of the season, which is something they should, and from what I'm being told, are considering. So all of those things taken into effect, I don't really think the Steelers have much to worry about in terms of making the playoffs. The question is, how much noise will they be able to make once they get there? They're not going to any Super Bowls without Ben Roethlisberger. You got to get him back. But in terms of working through the rest of this regular season, I definitely think that the Steelers can pull it off. I think they will. I think they go into the playoffs as a wild card.
Man, I hope you're right about this. I had Steelers winning this division, Stephen A., and the more I read, the more worried I get about them. And by the way, we both chastised Mike Tomlin for not yanking Byron Leftwich earlier in that game, and now we find out he had fractured ribs throughout the game. No good, no good. Send a bad message to the team. That one was on Mike Tomlin, my favorite coach in the NFL.
And Byron Leftwich. If you know your rib is that hurt, you got to know to come out the game and not hurt the team.
Yeah, but when you get your first shot in, 3 years, are you going to say, oh, I'm out? I don't think you're going to say. I wouldn't say that. But, okay, now let's get back to Plexico. Is this a positive or a negative for the Steelers? As much as I love Plex, you know what? Scares me, Stephen A., because nobody else wanted him. Did the Jets want him back? Jets could have used him? No. The rest of the league? No. Everybody said no all year long. Now we get 10 weeks in, and all of a sudden the Steelers are having to reach for a guy that started with them in Plexico. I'm sure he'll fit in just fine in the locker room. I'm not saying he'd be any kind of distraction. I just don't know if he's going to be that much of an addition at this stage of his career.
I think he will.
Well, I hope you're right, but I doubt it.
May I explain why? The New York Jets didn't want him back. Their argument privately in their little circles is that he couldn't create separation.
Yeah.
From 20 to 20, he couldn't get open. But the Jets were the second most efficient offense in the red zone last season behind Megatron with Stafford and the Detroit Lions. I'm talking 2011. The Jets were the second most efficient offensive team in the red zone. Why? Had everything to do with Plexico Burress and his 8 touchdown catches. Here's what I'm saying. Yeah, he may not be able to create separation. But if you look at the weapons on the Pittsburgh Steelers, you've got Sanders, you've got Antonio Brown, you've got Mike Wallace, and you've got Heath Miller as your tight end. So you got all of those weapons, Skip. If you have those weapons, then all you really need Plexico for is the red zone, which is what he is a specialist in. Also, you have to take into consideration, and I don't think he's been given enough credit for this, the dude was in prison. Last year he comes out of prison. It's his first time back in the NFL in 2 years. So the point is you got to work your way back into the kind of shape that you need to be in. I think a lot of people judged him harshly, and a lot of people weren't too interested in giving him a look because you know how the NFL is. You hit your birth certificate hits 30, and people are looking at you with raised eyebrows if they're looking at you at all. The Pittsburgh Steelers look at this guy, and they're saying, wait a minute, he's somebody that could be utilized. If the Jets had done that, they would have been in a better situation. How many times have the New York Jets messed up in the red zone this year? Because they didn't have somebody to throw the football up to go and get it. And that's what I'm saying Plexico Burress could do. And the fact that you've got a trio like Wallace, like Brown, like Sanders, not even mentioning Heath Miller, that could deliver the goods in terms of open field production between the 20s. When you get to that red zone, that's where Plexico Burress could come in and help you. And I think that's a good thing for the Steelers to have, especially when your number one and your supposed number two quarterback are both down with rib injuries. You don't need somebody to go down there and fling it like Dan Marino. You need somebody to just throw it up there, and you need receivers with the ability to go up and get it. And being 6'6", Plexico Burress can pull that off.
Yeah, don't discount Heath Miller. He's a pretty good red zone weapon. So,
I'm just saying, but it's a different position. He's a tight end.
Now I have to read from the highly respected Peter King, quoting an independent doctor, not a Steeler doctor, but an independent doctor, that this dislocated first rib of Ben's could be season-threatening, that he might not be able to play this season. Well, if that's the case, and we don't know that it is, but all bets are off then. I'm sorry, then I'm out.
Well, all bets are off. All bets are off. You still go and get Plexico Burress in my estimation because, again, you want to be able to just throw it up there as opposed to having a quarterback out there that can fling it with the degree of accuracy we would like. But the other thing about Big Ben is this. I'm glad you brought that up. If there's any truth to these reports that this injury is so acute, so different, so abnormal to such a degree that it would endanger him, it would cause nerve damage. You don't want another Peyton Manning situation. Operation, season, out for the year, the career threatening or whatever the case may be. Sit Big Ben out for the rest of the year. You do not need to jeopardize this man's career. And I'm not talking about the Steelers because I know they wouldn't do that because they're class personified. But I'm just saying Big Ben too. This season is not as important as the seasons to follow. And that's what my argument would be.
Okay, so you're saying they are in big trouble then?
No, what I'm saying is if you're Big Ben, do not play and jeopardize your career.
Okay, that's fine. I'm with you on that. But then they are in big trouble. Like Big Ben, big trouble.
Well, if Big
Ben ain't playing, they ain't going to the Super Bowl.
Thank you.
Well, we know that.